So what we will do is we'll start with those who signed up first to speak. That would be, let's start with the topic of the Spectrum Charter School. The first person I have signed up to speak is Ellen Zhurba. Ellen, to start us off, say your name, your address, and the subject we know is charter school.
My name is Ellen Zhurba. I live at 120 Asbury Court in Monroeville. I'm speaking to you this evening to strongly advocate for the charter renewal of the Spectrum Charter School. I am a resident of Monroeville, and I'm also currently a board member of the Spectrum School. However, I'm speaking to you tonight as a parent of a child on the autism spectrum who is currently enrolled at the school, my 15-year-old son, Andrew. My family is from New York. My husband discovered the Spectrum School while on a business trip to Pittsburgh. After visiting the school on several occasions, we were incredibly impressed by both the staff and students and felt that our son would thrive in this environment. Because of this, we moved from New York to Monroeville specifically to attend the Spectrum Charter School. Let me repeat this. We moved specifically to Monroeville to attend this school, the first autism-specific public charter school in the United States and one of the hidden gems of Monroeville. During the year and a half that Andrew has attended Spectrum, we have seen amazing changes in him. He has excelled academically and thrived socially. He jumps out of bed in the morning, thrilled to go to school. But the most amazing thing of all was earlier this year when he came home and he said to me, "Mom, I have friends who like me." Let me repeat that. "I have friends who like me," he said. Hearing something like that for the first time in 15 years brought me to tears. He finally found a place where he fits in, a place where he can be himself. One of the most important aspects of the school is the incredible work they do to help transition the students from academia to the real world. It's a disgrace that in the United States today, only 14% of individuals on the spectrum are either competitively employed or are in post-secondary education. 14%. However, over the past 5 years at the Spectrum School, 69% of the graduating students were competitively employed or were attending post-secondary education. That's 55 points better than the national average and better than could ever have been achieved if they were enrolled in a typical high school. I'm also here tonight because I have a concern about the charter renewal process and the actions of some members of this very school board. I've learned that a board member or two may have openly solicited select people to come to these meetings. However, as far as I know, no one else from the Spectrum School or from the Gateway District itself were personally invited by this board. As you are all aware, board meetings are public meetings and are posted as such. Therefore, specific notification cannot be given to one group of people and not to another. Such actions pose a concern about potential biases of members of the school board.
Let me interrupt you and just say that one of the rules that I did not read is that when you come to the podium to speak at a board meeting, you are not permitted to disparage a board member or an employee of the Gateway School District, or I have the right to end the conversation. Would you please wrap it up because you've come to your
Yep.
2-minute limit, ma'am?
I'm wrapping it up right now. Let me remind you that the Spectrum School serves 32 students from 14 different school districts, 4 of these students coming from Gateway. I'm here tonight to ask the board to not play politics with my son's future. I'm here tonight to ask the board to vote yes and renew the charter of the Spectrum Charter School. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ellen. Next, I have Michelle Guttman.
Give me a minute.
No problem.
Being a shorter person, you always have to do this.
We won't start the timer yet.
Thank you. First, before I start to speak, I would like to acknowledge that there are quite a few folks from the Spectrum family to speak standing out in the aisle and who can't come in and sit, but they are out there as well. Can you hear me? Because I don't know.
Yes.
So I'm Michelle Guttman. I am a resident of Monroeville. I have been, I was figuring this out and I was kind of shocked, over 40 years, and a taxpayer for that entire time as well. I was not a child. I've been on the Spectrum board for slightly over 3 years since my retirement, and I am currently the president of the board. Just to recap, and I think most of the Gateway School District Board knows this, but Spectrum has been in existence for 20 years. We're located on Northern Pike across from the fire hall. We have about, and I say about because it varies, 32 students attending ages 13 to 21. We have a ratio of staff to student per class of 8 to 2. We are able to maintain very small classes, which is to the benefit of the population at our school. One of the things that Ellen touched on is the transition program, and perhaps the board is aware of this, but in case it is something that you aren't aware of, our students go out into the outside world and volunteer at a number of entities, including Brothers, Carnegie Science Center, Concordia of Monroeville, which is next door, the Monroeville Chamber of Commerce, Monroeville Christian Church, the Public Library, and the Westmoreland Food Bank. And that is not all of them, but it's representative of what the kids are getting out and doing. And they're, they're learning tasks and doing work at those places. In these 3 years that I have been on the board, I've had the opportunity to observe the really positive impact on students' lives. I am a mother, I am a grandmother, and I am the sister of a person on the spectrum, so I feel strongly about the opportunities that they can have. I understand that you've received a number of letters from parents and family of Spectrum students. I was asked to read a letter from the Monroeville Christian Church, and in the interest of time, I'm just going to excerpt from it, but our kids have been volunteering at the church for over 15 years, and the church urges the board to consider renewal of the charter.
Why don't you give that letter to Mrs. Isha, and she can copy it and distribute it to the board members?
Sure, I can do that right now. I brought a copy. Should I do it after I finish speaking, I
Yes.
guess? I think that it's important for you to understand the makeup of the school, because it's not only the first school focused on autism in the country. Because of that, it is a very unique school. So a lot of the conventions that you bring to your ideas about the school may not, in fact, be accurate. We have 30 children with IEPs in our school. Of those, more than 2/3 are on the spectrum. These kids require, generally speaking, more intensive intervention, including the small class size, than you might get over the range of special education kids that are out there. So it just goes to one of the special aspects of Spectrum that presents us with both an opportunity and a challenge. One of the things that is on the agenda, and I'm not speaking to it generally, but as it impacts Spectrum, is the resolution. That resolution that you'll be considering later suggests that charter schools are being paid more than it costs to educate the children at the school. In the case of Spectrum, this simply is not true. Currently, the formula for tuition transfer to a charter school is based on the average of the special education budget for the kids. Our children are not average in terms of where they are. I think most of them are in Tier 4, which probably means more to you than it did to me up until a few weeks ago. But because we largely educate special education kids with intensive interventions, our costs are significantly higher than the district's average. And for that reason, the tuition we get from the 14 school districts does not actually cover our entire budget. And we engage in fundraising from philanthropies to make up the difference. So our 990 is out there. You can look at it. But you can see that we don't get more money from the school districts than it costs to educate our students. I just want you to be aware of that as you consider, because I know this is a really complex issue in the state of Pennsylvania, and there are a lot of pros and cons with respect to charter schools and a lot of controversy over them. But as it applies to Spectrum, we do not get more money from the school districts than we spend on the kids. So in conclusion, I just want to urge the school board to renew the charter as in your resolution for January 1st, 2020 to December 31st, 2024. Thank you for your time, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you.
Thank you, Michelle. Alisha Pascoe.
Alisha Pascoe.
Alicia?
My name's Alisha Pascoe, and I live at 4404 Ruth Drive in Monroeville. I served on Spectrum's board for 8 years. In addition to some of the comments that were made in support of Spectrum, I wanted to add that as a resident and taxpayer of Gateway School District, I have financial concerns about not renewing the charter. Spectrum currently has only minimal financial impact on the district. Gateway currently pays approximately $37,100 for each of the only 4 students that are enrolled at Spectrum, but based on the need for a specialized education setting, these students would likely need another specialized setting outside of Gateway School District. Tuition at approved private schools in the Pittsburgh area that specialize in autism spectrum disorders is significantly more than Spectrum. The AIU schools cost approximately $43,000 per year. Other private school tuitions range from $47,000 up to $71,000 per year. These costs do not include extended school year or the additional supports which would likely be needed in a larger school environment, such as a one-on-one aide. Transportation can add another $4,800 per month if a student needs to be bused to one of these faraway locations. Gateway should take pride in having a school right in Monroeville with great outcomes, which provides a safe haven for students who have poor educational experiences in their home districts. Closing Spectrum would send 32 students from 14 school districts back into uncertain and in some cases unsafe learning environments. I'm asking that you please renew the charter for Spectrum Charter School.
Thank you. Ashley Kostrub, sorry if I mispronounced that. Thomas McClain will be after Ashley.
Ashley here?
Wow.
Hi. Hello, everyone. My name is Ashley Kostrup, and I'm a mental health professional that has worked with Spectrum Charter School for the last 5 years. My job has required me to partner with Spectrum on several of my cases. As part of my job, it's to help advocate for what's best. Sorry, I'm losing my voice too. Part of my job is to help advocate for what's most appropriate for some of my students with IEPs, and I've seen a lot of the struggles many of my students have had. A lot of them have tried to attend their home schools, and it didn't work out for one reason or another. Most of my kiddos are not aggressive for schools like APSs, and many are too high functioning for other schools in the area like the AIU schools. So what's most appropriate seems like Spectrum Charter. It's where these kids fit the best. This school has been the best fit for many of my clients during the most recent years. The school has shown my clients great support, camaraderie, and independence. These teachers work late hours, spend their own money to make sure each students have what they need on a daily basis. The kids come to school and feel safe. They feel like they belong somewhere. I've seen firsthand how Spectrum Charter has made a difference in students. For example, I've witnessed a student become very independent without a need of an aide because of the smaller classrooms and more individualized attention. I've even witnessed graduation, and they've even helped with employment, all with the skills learned and friendships made while attending schools. It's also very refreshing that all the staff are very accommodating and willing to collaborate with me. I don't always see this at other schools. I've even recommended Spectrum Charter to many of my coworkers, other families I've worked with, and other providers. I continue to look forward working with them in the future. I believe this program is an asset to all of our autistic spectrum students and this population out here, especially in this east side of Pittsburgh. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thomas McClain, and on deck is Amanda Kotz.
Good evening. My name is Thomas McClain. I reside at 302 Coleman Drive in Monroeville. About a year and a half ago, I decided to move to the Gateway School District. Me and my wife, strictly based on the school district. We were in a previous school district neighboring to here that we were not happy with. We did our research and decided this was the best place to be. And I'm also unusual in the sense that my son Cameron's here. He's been going to Spectrum for about 7 years. And I also have a 13-year-old at Mosside Middle. So I'm doubly invested in the school district. And forgive my nervous tone, but I'm a little discouraged that we even have to be here for this. Because to acknowledge people on the hallway, they're going out the door and down the fire escape, all wanting to be here for the same reason, because of Spectrum. And most of the people I've never met before, even though they've been going to the same school as my child. And it hardens me to see this many people show up for Spectrum, and they're all here for the same reason, because of what this school has done for our children. When you have an autistic child, you have a lot of worry about what's going to happen to them in the future, what's the best place to get them an education. And just 2 weeks ago, me and Cameron's mother had to spend a whole day investigating places he's going to go after Spectrum. Every parent goes through that who goes to Spectrum. You investigate every option in extreme detail to make sure it's right for your child, because if it's not, it's terrifying. We chose Spectrum because it was the best place for our Cameron. And because of Spectrum, now we realize Cameron actually can work once he becomes eligible to work. Spectrum takes them out, they get jobs, they volunteer. I've been married to 2 teachers who have over 30 years of experience, and I can tell you in 7 years of Spectrum, I've been to more charity and community events through Spectrum than I have ever been through any public school in my life. Every month or so, there's something going on with the community. And with the teacher in Pittsburgh Public Schools, we have never had that. So this school does more than just educate the kids. They educate the community, they involve the community. Every event they have in the community is open to everybody, not just the Spectrum kids. It's open to everybody. And everybody shows up, and I just love the fact that there's people in this hallway who are crying because they're so upset about what this board may potentially do. And one thing I can tell you is they're not going away. I'm not going away. We'll all be back. We'll probably be back next week or whenever the next meeting is to talk about this. We're not going away. And I just want to give a shout out to everyone out there who can't be seen, but you'll probably see them when you leave. Thank you for your time, and please approve this charter.
Amanda Kotz and then Barb Bain.
Hello. I need to preface this by saying I do not like public speaking, but I am here because I love Spectrum Charter School. So my name is Amanda Kotz, and I come to you with a unique perspective. I'm an employee of Spectrum Charter School, a previous employee of the Children's Institute, a Monroeville resident, a proud Gateway mother, and closest to my heart, the parent of an autistic son with communication and behavioral challenges. With a combination of these different experiences, I feel confident and passionate in saying that Spectrum is an exceptional place. Since my start at Spectrum, I've seen students grow academically, socially, emotionally, and I've really been overwhelmed by the care, support, and expertise this school provides. This is a small classroom and individualized learning environment, and has allowed these children and young adults with autism and other special needs and challenges the opportunity to succeed and to belong. I see students happy to come to school, excited to see their friends, involved in student council, dances, and clubs, which would be more challenging in a larger public school setting. I see supports and enrichment activities like music, yoga, therapy dogs, and counseling that are unparalleled. And I see students dedicated to contributing to the Monroeville community and surrounding areas by volunteering at churches, food banks, community centers, and elder care homes, in addition to job training at local businesses. I see teachers and staff with a profound dedication to the success of their students and a deep passion for education. This is a family. Our parents, students, staff, and board support one another. They go above and beyond every day to create a school environment that gives students who come to Spectrum with complicated academic and social histories the opportunity to grow, to shine, and to reach their full potential. We are currently in the process of celebrating our 20th birthday. Happy birthday, Spectrum. And in those 20 years, Spectrum has been a part of this community. We work to build relationships with our neighbors through free community-based events and fundraisers, and we strive to make new connections within our community to make our students better citizens. So when you're making the decision as to whether or not to renew Spectrum Charter School status, please listen to the 32 voices of the families and students and the 15 staff and the countless alumni who are from Monroeville and the surrounding areas, and realize what a devastating effect this will have on not just us, but what a negative effect this will have on the community. Spectrum is a part of the diverse fabric of Monroeville, and we hope it will be so for many years to come. Thank you.
After Barb Bain is Rachel or Sean Kennedy. Rachel and Sean Kennedy.
I'm Barbara Bain. I live at 422 Cottage Lane, and I am coming with a different view of Spectrum that I want to share with you. Some of you in this room know that I taught at Gateway for 30 years. In fact, some of my students are here teaching now. I loved my experience at Gateway. I loved teaching here. I loved the experience of having my kids grow up here. But my oldest grew up and had a child who is autistic. It opened a whole new world to my family. And my daughter does not live in this area. She lives in another area where her experience was a nightmare. Just trying to educate her oldest child took so much energy you can't imagine. I couldn't help her in the Harrisburg area, but I decided to see what I could do here. I went to a Spectrum Advisory Board meeting, and before I knew it, I'm on the board. I come to you because I've seen what Spectrum does for families. Gateway is amazing in their education of special ed kids, but not all kids fit into it. I have seen myself, and Dr. Short can verify, I always had one class of inclusion, and I taught honors classes, by the way. This school meets the parents' need to be involved, but also to take a break. My experience with my daughter was that when she took her son to public school, somewhere in the shuffle, there's lots of homework, there's lots of stuff you have to do at home. This school takes that into consideration. And I think you can see just from the parents that have spoken here, what a relief it was when they came to Spectrum. I'm proud that it's part of Gateway School District. I feel it's one of the best things you've ever done, and I hope you keep it up.
Hi, we're Rachel and Sean Kennedy. We're 1188 St. Vincent Drive, Monroeville. We are here to discuss a 5-year renewal for Spectrum Charter School. We recently moved from Texas, where our son spent kindergarten through 9th grade in mainstream school. We did not have school choice options. When we knew there was a possibility of my husband accepting a job in Pennsylvania, I was thrilled to find info on Spectrum Charter via internet. The size and programs offered seemed like such a perfect fit. My son and I drove from Texas to tour Spectrum and were both impressed, therefore we got on the list. We specifically looked for a home in the Gateway School District to ensure he got a spot at this school. Our son has been here now for almost 2 years, and we have been completely thrilled with this school. Spectrum has been life-changing for our son and family. His teacher is phenomenal and has such good communication with us. When behaviors arise, she works so well with us to come up with successful resolutions. Our son's work is tailored to fit his needs, making success a reality for him, whereas before in mainstream, he was just falling in the cracks, playing catch-up at the end of the grading periods. The transition program has been amazing in teaching him working skills. He has now successfully held a job in the community for almost a year. We have seen so much growth from him since attending this school. Our son has mentioned on more than one occasion for the first time he truly feels like he belongs and has true friends. The move away from all our family and everything we have ever known was extremely difficult. We did not know how this would affect our son, so all our decisions centered around him and the school we would choose. I credit this school for such a successful transition at what could have been an extremely difficult time in his life. The staff has been nothing but professional and supportive. I ask that you would reconsider renewing Spectrum Charter School, for the work they do for all of our children is truly life-changing. Thank you for your time and hearing me on this matter today.
All right, that concludes our residents for the topic of Spectrum Charter School. I would just like to let you know, those of you who are here from Spectrum Charter School, that the motion to vote on the charter was tabled. So it is not going to be untabled tonight. It will not be voted on tonight. According to the Pennsylvania Department of Education's website, just so people who aren't from the school understand, what we're talking about, it is our obligation to conduct a comprehensive review prior to granting a 5-year renewal of a charter school. We take that very seriously, especially if there is a resident or an individual who may come to us with a concern. So the item was tabled so that it could be fully researched. Part of that research includes getting information from your school, which has been provided to us, and it is under review. So once that review is complete, it will be untabled and then voted on. So I thank you all very much for coming out and sharing your heartfelt concerns, and obviously, you're very happy with your school. We appreciate your input, but I do want to let you know that it will not be voted on this evening. Thank you again.
Can they come in? I'm sorry for speaking out of turn, but can everybody come in so you can see how important this is to all of us?
Sure, that will be fine. Should I repeat what I said? Because I was really off the cuff. Who's outside? Shouldn't have reeled yet. I'll repeat the abbreviated version. I thought there was only 30 students. Come on in, don't be shy. Is that everybody? Come on, guys. Come on. Well, he's not from Spectrum. He's not from Spectrum. I don't imagine that you all heard what I said at the conclusion of the talks. Do I need to repeat? Try to repeat? It was totally off the cuff. What I said was, I thanked you all for coming to share your input and your love and appreciation for your school. And I just read briefly from the PDA website that says that it is our obligation as a school board to conduct a comprehensive review prior to granting a 5-year renewal of a charter school, and that we take that very seriously, especially when a community member brings a concern to our board. So what we did was, when we had that concern presented to us, we tabled it. It is tabled at the time being. We have received information that was requested. It is under review. We just received that a couple days ago. It will not be voted on tonight. It will remain tabled until that review is complete, and then it will be untabled and voted on. So I appreciate all of you coming out here to express your concern, and thank you. And we will.
Will there be public notice when it is untabled, when the board is going to vote?
Yes.
So
There'll actually be a public hearing.
No, not if it's untabled.
Once you're on table, no, after that, you're right. Yes. You're right.
Do we anticipate having this information processed and analyzed within the next week, Dr. Short?
It's an ambitious task. There's a lot of documents that were presented. I did speak with Michelle Johnson, and I can't give a yay or a nay at this point, but perhaps within 48 hours, we can let everyone know.
Maybe a better, or at least an alternate version, would be to just go ahead and say at this point, next week, we will not have it ready. And next week, we can make the announcement that the following week, we'll be ready to make a
That is
recommendation.
correct, yes. I'd feel more comfortable knowing in March that we
March
would be
meeting.
able to address this.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Yes. You know what, I'll let you, right, here, right?
I will. Go on, beer. No, we're gonna get yelled at by first. It's all good.
This is my letter. There's about 10 copies there I have. Okay. I wasn't sure how many were. I'll get them out. There are 9 on the board, but I'll get them to our administrators as well. Awesome, okay. Your name is?
Wasidlo, Lenore Varma.
Oh,
The Swissville resident.
Yeah, the Swissville, okay.
Yeah, who,
Okay.
there was no way he was not. He was coming to Spectrum no matter what.
Good that you're in the 10-mile radius.
And, oh, I made sure of that. This is him today. Yeah. I made sure of that.
She might remember me.
They're going to come in, so I think I'll like them to know. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
A lot of people. Right.
Should have took a 5-minute recess.
I'm about to be in the
People on TV are watching. Do you need a 5-minute recess? Mics are still on.
It's actually my daughter. Yeah.
Oh, that
Really quick.
Oh.
They had 12 offers.